Alright, so this is going to be part 5 to what if Deku had wave motion. So before we get started, I have to make kind of a announcement, and that is, if you've seen my recent community posts or you've seen my Discord lately, you know that I'm kind of writing a research paper, and I kind of need you guys' help. So what I need is basically some data, and what it's about is the relationship between those who are artists and practice creative forms such as drawings, painting, playing music and things like that, to their IQ. So down below underneath my Twitter and Discord, I'll post the IQ test you could use, or you could test, right? The IQ test that you could use, right? It will take some time, probably like maybe 30 minutes or more, and once you get that done, it'll tell you your IQ. And then once you get your IQ, there's going to be a second link in the description underneath the test, and that's going to be the Google form. And right there, you just fill in, the information that you got. So it's going to ask you questions like, do you consider yourself an artist? What form of art do you practice? And then your age, and then the IQ. I need like 10. So I need like 10 that are not artists, and then 10 that are artists. And right now I have like 18 submissions, but most of them are not artists, so I need to have that balance. So yeah, if you have time, I do ask that you help out and do this. I only need a few people to actually do it, so I do greatly appreciate the help. Remember, like, the test is free. It is an online thing. You just have to do the questions, and at the end it'll tell you your IQ, and then you can use that for the Google forms that'll be in the description. So yeah, with that being said, let's actually get into the what if. So in the last part, we just got done with the cavalry battle, and basically Deku not really being able to lose because of his flight ability, so he actually gets into the other rounds. So do the other two runner-ups, that being Todoroki and Bakugo, since they were pretty much guaranteed to get into the finals, I guess. So this is where Midnight would announce the next part of the tournament, and that's actually going to be, I guess, the next part of the sports festival, and that's going to be the tournament part. And this is where Ojiro would basically talk about how he wants to forfeit because he doesn't feel like his win was deserving, and he thinks that someone might have messed with his mind. He tells this to Deku in particular because Deku is actually going to fight Shinso, which he believes to be someone who's able to control someone's mind. So they don't know how exactly he does this. So when he's in the ring with Deku, he tries to get him to talk. I think Deku in this one would really want to end this quickly, and because of the way that his quirk works, I think he'd be able to easily do this. So he would just use a small percentage of his wave motion and basically push him off the ring without really hurting him too much, but also not being for Shinso to really be able to fight back. So after the match, I think Deku would have consoled Shinso a bit. I believe I made his personality a bit more serious because of his sister and the way that she acts. I think he would be like the opposite of that, because that's generally how, not all the time, but sometimes that's how siblings actually act. If there's like a really vibrant person as the older sibling, sometimes the younger will be maybe the opposite. They kind of straighten them out, or sometimes they might follow the same example, but you know what I mean. So yeah, he wouldn't be cold, but he would feel, it would feel sincere, but it also is kind of serious to Shinso, and I think you really appreciate that. So after this, we would get to the fight with Todoroki. So in this one, again, I don't think Deku would be too concerned about the fire aspect of his quirk. Again, I think he would just want to just win and not really care too much about the fire. So Deku would be able to easily break the ice of Todoroki, because with Nejire, when she used 100% of hers, she was able to basically knock down a giant quirk user, and being able to push him below several layers of concrete and things like that, and all the way to the fight against Overhaul, right? If you guys remember that. So as Deku's kind of fighting Todoroki over and over, the ice would just keep coming, and then he would just break it. He would just keep coming and break it, and Deku's getting closer as he does. And instead of the kind of fire final stand that Todoroki does, he does something similar, but with ice, and so does Deku, and he actually does 100% wave motion with a little bit of one for all mixed in. So I believe the percentage he would use for one for all would probably be around 10%, just so it doesn't overly blow everything up. So this would be a giant kind of wave, or I guess it'd be more focused than it would be normally. And as this is going through, because there's so much energy around it, and it has to spiral as it goes through, it's almost kind of like a drill, because it's going a lot faster than usual because of how much energy that's in it and how condensed it is, as well as the spiral motion. Actually, the spiral motion would slow it down, but you know what I mean. So it basically, it's not as thin as something like a special beam cannon, but it is somewhat not as large as it usually would be. So this actually drills through the ice that Todoroki is actually doing, and this goes and pushes Todoroki outside of the range, or not the range, outside of the mats, or the kind of arena, making him lose. Deku would have been pushed back too a bit, but then again, he can use wave motion underneath his feet to keep him above or without touching the ground, so he'd be in, and Todoroki would lose. Again, I think that Deku would console him, but it'd be two personalities clashing against each other. This being Todoroki's kind of loner kind of personality, mixed in with his almost regret of losing on this fight, and Deku's kind of serious nature as well. They just really clash at this point, and nothing really gets resolved. So we get to the next fight, and this is with Bakugo and Deku. So Bakugo would have seen Deku fight, and is kind of, he really wants to win. If I remember right, I made it where they didn't really have too much of a good relationship, because when they were younger, Bakugo thought he had a better quirk than Deku, so that's really the reason why. So Deku at this point has felt a little tired because of how much he's been using his wave motion, because if you remember, wave motion is something that runs off your stamina. So if you use it for a long time or use a large amount, then it does take some of your stamina away. Obviously, he has been training to really boost his efficiency with it, so he's not as tired as he would normally be if he didn't train. So let's say he's probably, if we had to give it like a percentage, he's probably like 30% tired. Like if he was 100, then he'd be like fully rested. Let's say he's like at 70%. So that's really what he's feeling right now. And yeah, so he would get into the fight with Bakugo, and with this, it's gonna be a little bit different. Or for Deku, it is a little bit different because he has that kind of, I believe I said he had like a kind of lean build to him, compared to someone like how Deku was, or the kind of other characters like All Might. He has more of a leaner structure, so he isn't really too familiar with close combat. So Deku would have to go and fight Bakugo from a range, so he doesn't really get rushed. So Bakugo knows this, and he would try to rush Deku, but Deku would keep the distance using his wave motion, as well as him being able to kind of fly a bit to get out of the way. So Deku would get closer to Bakugo, and Bakugo really wouldn't expect this. So he would actually use a small kind of not small, but a very large wave motion. Because it's larger, it goes slower, but since he's so close range, it doesn't really matter. And this actually pushes forward and pushes Bakugo. Bakugo would use this explosion to actually get back into the ring, but Deku would be ready for this and starts to do a very large two-handed wave motion kind of attack, just how you see Nejire usually do, but this way it's actually a lot bigger because he wants to push Bakugo out of the ring and he's covering most of the arena. But Bakugo is using his explosion to try to go over it, and Deku basically aims higher to try to get around it. And once Bakugo is at a certain angle, he actually does his howitzer impact, and Deku seeing that this is going to be a large attack, and this is where he actually uses 100% of his wave motion. And instead of 10%, he would actually go to 30% with his One For All to even boost it even more. And as they both collide with the howitzer impact as well as the 100% wave motion, this is where Cementos would actually come in and try to block everyone from getting hurt. And the walls would still get injured, and the arena itself would have to be, well, repaired a lot because the structure of it would be kind of crumbling. Not like breaking down, but it's probably not safe to be there. But it's not like it's gonna break anytime soon. But yeah, once they hit, there's this giant explosion, and Bakugo, because it's such a unstoppable force against an explosion, it just kind of spreads out as if it would like hit a wall. All the energy there would just spread out, and then the wave motion would just continue going forward, pushing Bakugo out of the ring. So Deku could be considered the winner, and he would get first place while Bakugo would get second, and then Tokoyami would get third because he actually did win more matches than Todoroki in this. Or just in general, if he would have lost to Deku there, he would have still been third place. So yeah, like I said before, this is gonna be another video. Like I said before, please, if you have time, I know it's kind of a hassle, but if you have time, please go do the IQ test and then do the Google Forms. I really do appreciate you guys who do it. And yeah, if you really like this series, give me a like. Tell me down below if you want more parts of this series. If you made it to the end of the video, make sure to comment down CS so I know that you support the channel. If you want to see more of my content, please subscribe. And with that being said, this is going to be the video. So yeah.